Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please. Am I audible? And so, for want of time, as Dr. Smriti Mehta just now has mentioned, because like as keynote address, we were allocated 20 minutes. And of course, even I'm very much aware of it because I was told to be ready at 11 o'clock and it is already lunchtime. And I think this is the most very difficult part of the day when a hungry stomach with eager ears probably. But anyway, I would like to register my thanks and appreciations to the chief patron, convener, organizing secretary, coordinators, moderators as well. You're doing a wonderful job. And it's really amazing. Like the topic even caught my eye, like progressive research, which is something which I really appreciate because as just now ma'am said, like research ought to be progressive. It has to be progressive. It is researching something which definitely should be progressive. And for want of time, I would like to just give a key framework of what I look into reading as a teacher of English literature. Is it lit? Yeah. So before the some technical glitch here, let us let's proceed there. And today, when I was like attending Dr. Edward Haberek's session, one thing that really caught my eye was like he was saying like how when you are going into AI reading, it doesn't judge. When we human beings read or when we human beings research, we do a bit of judgment, which is not which doesn't find a space when it comes to AI reading. And I also agree with the Dr. Raina Lampu when she spoke about how there is a perfect precision when it comes to robotics and such things. So my reading today's session is on infoscopic mapping of female voices. And for want of narrowing it down for an in-depth study, I just narrowed it down to Indian and Greek epics. But my major concern is upon rereading with AI. So when it comes to rereading, first we go into what kind of effects reading has on the human mind. And it is something very interesting, as we all know, that reading triggers a functional brain fine tuning, which is physically reshaping the cortex to process and interpret the world more efficiently. So this is a cognitive enhancement which reading gives, and that leads or translates directly to enhanced empathy and better navigation of social relationships in the real world. And so this leads to a huger empathy and emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is definitely there. And And this leads to pro sociality, a regular exposure to pro social contents. This actually helps to internalize societal norms and moral reasonings, and this leads to a better, a cooperative and pro social real world. And this is where, when I feel connected to progressive research, which is the key concept of this international conference. And we do understand that at least 30% of the world populations do read. Though we really have a concern about reading etiquettes these days, but it is something which is very heartwarming to see that when it comes to reading, paper remains the dominant preference worldwide, and almost 57% of the global readers choose physical print over e-book or e-print and audiobooks. And 30% of the followers of any particular religion do give a very close reading to their scriptures. And that is one of the reason why I decided to take this for my reading, okay, the Greek and Indian epics. And these epics still enjoy high ongoing cultural participation. I feel like when it comes to a reading of the female voices, we do understand that the female voices, or when the female voice is strong, a cultural participation also remains very stronger. And so rereading of epics transforms actually monumental stories from dusty historical text into deeply relevant mirrors of modern life. So this is one advantage of rereading. And there's a monumental shift from it's like what happens to why it happens. And so the underlying themes, motives, and character developments are looked into with a keen eye, and the linear plot summary gives way to deep exploration of human psychology and cultural evolution, which actually leads to a better world, in my opinion. So when it comes to infoscopic mapping, when it comes to any given text, first we feed the text. And when it comes to this text, the epics are quite lengthy in nature. Like, for example, when we look into Mahabharata, we do notice that there are more than 1 lakh couplets. Okay, these 1 lakh couplets are not going to be very easy for us to read quickly. And so what happens is this actually gives a insight into we leave away certain concepts in the primary text, which actually leads to a lesser understanding of the particular text. And okay, so it takes at least 3 to 6 months for, if I am to read 1 to 2 hours every day, the Mahabharata will actually take me at least 6 months to read. Okay, and a deep analytical study will take me at least 1 to 3 years. But when I'm feeding the text into for AI analysis, it would do it in 20 to 40 hours. Okay, and we can digest almost 1.8 million words in the fraction of a time through AI reading. It summarizes chapters, it contextualizes characters, and it translates the dense sections of those characters, and it gives it to us. And Ramayana has almost 24, I think Valmiki Ramayana has at most 24,000 verses, and it will take at least 1 to 2 months for us to read. And AI takes less than around maybe in and around some 50 to 50 hours. Okay, and for us to read the Ramayana, it may take an in-depth study of the Ramayana might take 6 to 9 months. And when we are to take Odyssey, for instance, Odyssey, it might take a few days for us to read, like maybe 4 to 7 weeks. But an AI reading will definitely do it in less than 10 to 12 hours. An Iliad may take 3 to 4 weeks to read, and 1 to 3 months for scholarly reading. But the best part is in 10 to 15 hours, okay, AI will be doing the mapping. Okay, next, please. And when I would like to like give you I'm just taking a very few primary characters from Indian epics and Greek mythology, just a few, just to give us an insight of what they actually are. Okay, and the key focus actually comes in the mapping, because these are all characters well known to all of us. So when it comes to Sita, she stands for moral endurance, and she says she stands for dharma. Okay, dharma as a wife. Okay, and it's a conscious choice she makes, and she endures all the hardships. Okay, and the word dharma, she is repeated 47 times across the epic. And one interesting fact, when we reread, okay, the character of Sita, we see that she's not a very simple character or a subservient character, but she's a very complex character, devotional to the core. And she's a profound female agency who stands for resilience. She stands for absolute resilience, and she stands for an exemplified example of a survivor. And she questions patriarchy. She's like, and when it comes to rereading, we have umpteen versions of Ramayana. For example, in Abdut Ramayana, it says that it was she who fought Ravana. Okay, and this actually gives us an insight about the female voice, which most of those who are reading the scripture believe in. Okay, and she was a warrior princess. Her sister Urmila was left behind. Whereas she goes, so is she a subservient wife? Such readings and all, and her voice, and she is very loud and clear when you read with an AI reading, and we understand a pattern where actually Sita questions patriarchy. She's not a submissive voice. And we have Draupadi, where Draupadi, of course, is she's the one who again questions the entire patriarchal settings itself, the structure itself, she questions. She stands as a subaltern voice questioning the patriarchal structures, and a fiercely independent woman. And while rereading, if we read Airavati Kave's Uganta, we see how strong a woman she is, how she brings or she constructs Indraprastha, and how determined she is. And she questions, whom did you lose first, yourself or me? So what does she stands for? She stands for a political voice. Unless a general belief stating that Indian women are submissive, Indian epics and itikas promotes a patriarchal voice rather than a matriarchal voice, we see a revelation when it comes to such readings. We see that no, she was not a submissive voice, and she has 60 recorded dialogues, the highest not only in Mahabharata, in any epics or itikas which you read all over the globe. And just for right from an epic, in Tamil epic from down South India, we have Kannagi from Salapadikaram. Okay, when she sees that it was like her husband is killed by the king, she declares, if I am chaste, let this city burn. The city of Madurai was burnt down, because again, here she stands as a symbol of justice incarnate. Yes, and these said, I would like to move to certain examples in Greek epics where we see that Helen, she's spoken very much as the most beautiful woman on earth, and we see how she was abducted by the Trojan prince, or whether she eloped with the Trojan prince, being the daughter of Zeus and Leda, the most beautiful woman on earth, most spoken woman on earth. But she speaks just 10 times, fewer than 10 times, and she's more talked about rather than heard. And when you are doing an AI reading or a rereading, we see that she says, I wish I had died before I came here, because it was a huge war which took place for years. And one beautiful thing which I understood while I was doing a rereading of this was that her physical features were rarely described. She was physically, the woman was not described much, but she was just declared as one of the most wanted beauty on earth. And then ultimately she returns to as Menelaus and becomes the queen. And so now she stands as a beauty incarnate who takes the blame on herself, and a silent voice who she doesn't voice much, but she is spoken much about. And we have Penelope. Okay, Penelope, we know the story very much about it. Okay, and like when we have a reading about Penelope, she stands as a strategist. She plans, she replans, she structures, and she delays disaster. She delays. We know about how there are almost 108 suitors who come stating that her spouse is dead and she has to remarry in order to continue to be a queen. Okay, the king is dead. So they believe that Odysseus is dead, but Penelope, she wants to keep the suitors out. See, it is not taking into consideration the cultural structure which was prevalent at that time. It was not too easy for a woman to stop not even a few suitors, but she was patiently waiting for her husband, implementing strategies, and she keeps on weaving and unweaving. Okay, and so these all she says, wait, I will weave a burial shroud. And so what she does is, daytime she will weave, nighttime she will remove it. And so it was like making them giving them no choice about pursuing her or pressurizing her. And after 10 years, when Odysseus returns, okay, and she to him also, in order to, because he comes in disguise, and she gives a very, very difficult test for him to string the bow, almost like how Ram had to string the bow and prove himself to marry Sita. She too gives a test to Odysseus, and then she marries him. And we have another character, Andromachy, okay, who stands. Okay, she says, hers is a very pathetic voice. Okay, she was the wife of the Trojan prince Hector. She pleads him. No, it doesn't fall. It falls on dead years, and Hector is killed. She's taken as a war prisoner. She becomes a concubine to Neoptolemus, and she bears 3 sons, and she dies of old age. Okay, so the grief, her space is home. Okay, she's not a. It is a private grief that she exhibits. Now, when it comes to so these are just a few characters which I would like. Now, when it comes to a rereading, progressive research, okay, which kind of woman is strong? A woman who speaks in a political space, or a woman who voices in a private space, or a domestic space. And we feel that like, Indian women had 2 to 3 times more of a voice in whichever Itihas they had. Draupadi speaks in 63 places, Sita speaks in 40 places, Penelope in 30, and Helen just in 8 places. Okay, and we see just a comparison of how Draupadi and Penelope both were very, very strong queens, or strong characters in their respective space. Draupadi's voice is to the king. Penelope's space is in the home. She speaks of Dharma. The Draupadi speaks of Dharma. Penelope is she just speaks to the gods. She keeps the suitors away. She waits for her husband. But Draupadi, she gives a war cry. She challenges the court. Okay, and she also demands justice. So when it comes to the word clusters, which is very much important when it comes to any research, especially when it comes to humanities, I personally feel like the words really determine life itself. Okay, so in Indian epics and in Greek epics, Indian epics, Dharma stands strong. Justice is demanded, questions are posed, sacrifice is done by the woman. And when it comes to Greek epics, home is protected, okay, and loyalty is ensured, and they are projected as most beautiful women, and they both have different vocabularies. Okay, vocabularies, and their female presence is so very strong. Okay, now an inference and is a reading between lines. We see both the traditions put the woman at the center of the stories, unlike the common ideology that women are sidelined, women are secondary, women are voiceless. We see exterior epics and itihas giving us space for moral debates, not in the personal space, but in the public arena, questioning the kings. And now a question of which woman is or good enough, and an AI analytical reading says neither is less, neither less. They are different. They are all powerful. They all are architects of power. They all had a voice. They all, either in private or in public arena, they had a strategic space. They knew how to delay disaster. They knew how to guide themselves either within the household, within the palace, or in a court, in a king's court. And these are certain secondary characters which also would find very interesting reading in Indian epics. Sabari, who waited for ages for Lord Ram. Okay, and Mandodari, how the is the queen of Ravana. And one interesting character, the quality about Mandodari is like she's the only one who demands and directly tells the Lankan king Ravana, send back Sita. And even today she is worshipped and revered by the Lankans. And Kunti, how she keeps all the 5 of her sons together by strategically marrying Draupadi to all 5 of them. And that is one of the key factor that the war for Dharma had 5 brothers together, kept intact by the mother. And Gandhari, the blindfolded queen, she stands for justice. She stands for justice. She refuses to be her husband's eye. She is a very strong woman, unlike what a popular belief says that she was she didn't want to see the world which her husband didn't see. Again, I'm quoting Airavati Karve, where Gandhari says, I refuse to be his eyes. I refuse to be his eyes. This is one particular character about Gandhari when we are rereading about it. And we have the Naga princess Ulupi who actually protects Arjuna. She becomes very pivotal because Arjuna was one of the best of warriors when it comes to the five, the Pancha Pandavas. So, saving his life, Arjuna stood as a character who saves his entire race, and Naga princess saves Arjuna twice. And Kaikeyi, of course, plenty of rereading about her qualities are also given. And in parallel, this AI reading gives about how the woman who shaped the stories of Roman epics. We have Dido, Camelia, Lavinia, Cruza, Amata, and Lucretia. Okay, how they all stood for strength. They all stood for very strongly. They stood for what they believed in, either in silence or they rarely but very strongly they spoke out. Okay, so these are certain secondary characters with an AI mapping, and this is a tabulation of it. Sita, Draupadi, Kunti, Kandari, Mandodari, and Sabari, and how they, the primary and secondary characters, like how they stood for moral endurance as a political voice, as strategists. They they were ready to renounce their personal comforts, and how they were morally upright, and how very devoted they were. Either they were a catalyst, they were a decision maker, or they were the cause for turning points, or they were the cause for the theme of the story or the theme of a culture going forward. And then next one, we see Roman epics, the same thing, how they were the founder of cities, how they were destiny driven, how they knew which direction to go, and how they were war catalysts, and how Lucretia, for instance, okay, she was a matter agency, and because of her only Republic was born on earth. And so, like, their agencies are like so clear and very, very clear. It is very defined, and the plot impact which they causes are also very, very clear. And so this is again a consolidation of it, how Draupadi, Dido, and Kunti are public voices. Okay, and they acted in Camilla and Ulupi acted in public. Sabari, Mandodari, and Gandhari acted in the private space, but they were personification of high moral values. And Lavinia, Crucia, and Lucretia, they were silent but pivotal role players in the private space. And these are the data which we get because of that. And the key findings, we see in Indian we see high dialogue, high impact. And when it comes to Romans, low dialogue, again, high impact. And this is one reading which really was interesting, because both, it might sound as a paradox, whether there is high dialogue or whether there is low dialogue, they were powerful, and their performance metrics was non-parallel, irrespective of whichever settings they were. Okay, and so this stands as the synthesis of this infoscopic mapping, which makes certain patterns visible. And now, what is the benefit of such patterns? Why do we have to read myths? They are not lies. Yes, I would like to quote, they are the way a culture tells the truth about itself. And what is the benefit of a culture speaking about itself? That their lies are sheer existence. In that voice lies dharma. In that voice lies strategies, and technology definitely helps us to read this without missing out anything. And AI doesn't replace reading Valmiki or Homer. In fact, it actually gives us a very beautiful sketch of what the underlying story is and how it could be connected to ages and ages, for ages to come as well. And that is why it stands the test of time. And there, when I connect this to the progressive research with this conference aims at, and also the emerging methodologies with which we could read it. And I have stuck to time. Thank you, dear organizers, for having given me this wonderful opportunity, and just a few references. And thank you.